Well, if you would, I'd like for you to travel back in time with me 18 years ago to my first year teaching high school. And we were doing the same things that my teachers had done. I was lecturing, my students were taking notes, we did worksheets, we read chapters out of the book, and we took tests. And there were some days when I struggled and I needed to survive, I would throw a movie in for the students to watch. And I can remember that fateful spring day when I was teaching my animal science class that I just needed to keep my head above the water. And so I went to a shelf and I pulled off of that shelf a VHS. Now, you guys don't know what a VHS is. A VHS is kind of like a video cassette. Okay, that doesn't help either. This is what they are. So I pulled out one and it was 45 minutes long, and this was just perfect for my 50-minute class for me to be able to survive. And I take this video over to the VCR, and as I'm about to put it in, I remember this video from when I was in high school. I remember that it was old then. I know that it was long. I knew that it was boring. But I needed to survive, so I threw it in there, and we started to watch this video. Well, as you might imagine, shortly after we started doing it, my students lost interest. They kind of looked like these students right here. They weren't really engaged with what was happening. And about halfway through the video, there was finally one of the students who exclaimed, "Are we ever going to do something with animals?" And I had to pause. What was he talking about? We were doing the same things that I had done when I was in high school. But then that thought came to my mind about my dad, who taught wood shop. What would it have been like to take in wood shop and never build anything out of wood? But that was the exact experience that I was given to my students. Now, earlier in the year, I had given my students a motto that we wanted to live by. That motto is learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve. We were doing the learning to do, but we failed at the doing to learn. So at that moment, I turned the video off and we had a discussion about what it might look like to be able to do something with animals in our classes. Now, at the end of class, we realized that there was some property that the school had. And so the next day we decided that we would go to that property and see if there was something that we could do with animals. And when we got there, this is what we found. We found weeds, we found junk, but we also found potential. And so the students spent the class period going around coming up with ideas of maybe what that could look like. We went back to the classroom, and for the next few days, they talked about what they could do with that property. They discussed what animals we could raise. They designed facilities, they made budgets, they wrote proposals, and then they presented these findings to their class. At the end of it, they voted on which one they wanted to do. And the one they decided on is that they would raise pigs. And so with this idea of now raising pigs, we went to the farm, as we now call it, and we got rid of the weeds, we got rid of the junk, and we started sharing our story with the community of what the dream was to start raising pigs. Along the way, one of our farmers got wind of this, and they donated to us 6 pigs. So we started raising pigs, and it didn't take very long for us to realize we didn't know very much about raising pigs. We needed help. If I'm being honest, I needed help. And so we went and we started asking for help. We found a farmer who taught us how to raise them and give them the best feed and take care of them the way that we needed. An engineer found out about what we were doing, and he designed for us a future pig building that we could put onto our property as we got funding. We had parents who had trucks and trailers who hauled the animals to market for us, and then our community bought the pork that the students raised. And as it went on, year after year, as we continued this model, our farm continued to grow. So we didn't just have pigs, we started adding dairy calves, we added goats and lots of other things. And as it became bigger and bigger, it also required more and more help from our community. Oftentimes, we asked the community for help, but eventually got to the tipping point where the community members started coming to us and asking, how can we be involved in this project? Now, you don't have to build a farm to engage your communities. I love the African proverb that many of us are familiar with. It takes a village to raise a child. Maybe we could say it a little bit differently. It takes a community to raise a classroom. And so as we have the opportunity to invite the communities into our classrooms, these villages into our classroom, we can start to change maybe what our classroom looks like. Now, as you might imagine, there may be some roadblocks that we put in front of ourselves that would prevent us from bringing the community into our classroom. One of those questions that we might ask ourselves is, I can't ask for help. This is what I get paid to do. Or if I ask for help, won't they just think that I'm incompetent? Or how if I use people from the community, do I not make it more work for myself? All along the way, as we are asking these questions, we really just cannot allow ourselves to fall in that trap of not asking for help with those that are around. We cannot say no for others. The worst thing that someone can do when we ask for help is they can say no, and that's okay. The worst thing that we can do is never to ask for the help, and so we're saying no for them already. Now, you will find that as you ask people, a surprising number of them are going to say yes. And the reason why they're going to say yes is people need to feel needed, and people want to feel wanted. And so as we do this, these people are going to find a place. Now, I'm going to share something that might be very hard for you to believe. Our students' parents love them more than we do. And I'd like to illustrate that as my own experience as a parent when 2 years ago, our high school wrestling team hired a new wrestling coach. And one of the very first things that this new coach did is he invited all of the parents in and had a meeting. And he told us as parents that he wanted to spend as much time with these wrestlers as he could. And in order for him to have that time to turn them not just into great wrestlers, but into great young men, he needed the time to be able to do that. He asked for our help to be able to do the things that really anyone could do. So we started planning the banquet, we did the fundraising, we ran the social media platforms, and just all the other day-to-day administrative facts that just aren't necessary for a coach to do. And along the way, I found my niche of how I could help the program, and I got assigned doing the wrestling broadcasts. I loved it. I loved it because that's what my child was involved in. It was my opportunity to help the team, and it was something that our community got behind in being able to participate with those types of things. There were 3 lessons that I learned from being able to do this. The first one is quite often when schools show up to the community, we kind of ask for money. And it's important, and we need that money from time to time. But there is a type of buy-in that money cannot replicate when you get involvement from people in the community, getting involved in your classroom and into your program. In my classroom, we make it a regular and integral part to be able to invite people from the community into our classroom and spend some time with us. In my floral design class, every month we bring in a different guest designer. And they design an arrangement that students will make, and they bring in techniques and skills that I just don't have in order for the students to be able to learn and develop those. In my leadership class, we bring business professionals to interview the students as part of their job interviewing final. We even leverage people outside of the community to help us by participating over Zoom. And there's even been some examples of when these different interviewers are so impressed by our students that they will actually give them jobs at the end of it. We have all types of different things that our community can help us with, and with our students. We have teams that our students participate on. We have coaches that will come in and do it. We have students doing scientific research that I don't know anything about, and we bring people with expertise. So whether it's applications or papers, whatever it might be, we bring people in the community to help mentor individual students or to partner with them. And if you remember, I talked about that first year when I had these students that wanted to do something with animals. I even have a former student now who's a veterinarian who offers free services for all of our veterinary needs at our school farm. Now, I realize that most of you, or some of you, do these types of things already in your classroom and continue to share those stories. But how beautiful would it be if every day in our school, the community was invited in to participate with what we're doing? How beautiful would it be if we could partner with our industries to give their employees time during their work week to read with students one-on-one over Zoom in all elementary schools? How beautiful would it be if we could have history students going out to our communities, gathering stories and sharing them and preserving those histories that we have in our local community. How beautiful would it be if we could have retired individuals come in and share their expertise and support our students and give them a renewed sense of purpose as to what they've been able to do in their community. I want to go back to our motto of learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, and living to serve. As we take these students with what they're learning to do, and we give them applications of doing to learn with these community individuals, they will develop the skills allow for them to earn, and maybe by having the community come in, it will model to the students of an attitude of living to serve others. So as they leave the classroom, they in turn will be able to serve others in what they do. You are amazing, and you do amazing things, and you don't have to build a farm to prove it to people. But as you and your students invite the community into your classroom and you cultivate that culture, you, your students, and community will build a legacy that lasts. Thank you.